What if I told you, the most charming man in the room could also be the most dangerous? That behind a smile and polite words, darkness was quietly waiting to be unleashed. This is the story of Ted Bundy, before the world knew his name. Ted Bundy was born Theodore Robert Cowell on November 24, 1946, in a Vermont home for unwed mothers. His mother, Eleanor Louise Cowell, was just 22 and unmarried, a scandal in those days. To protect the family's image, Ted was raised believing his mother was his sister and his grandparents were his parents. This deception was the first crack in Bundy's identity. Behind closed doors, the household was strict, even hostile. His grandfather was abusive and violent, a shadow that lingered over young Ted. Even as a boy, Ted displayed disturbing behavior. Relatives recall him placing knives around his sleeping aunt, watching quietly until she woke. Neighbors remember him digging pits in the woods, covering them with leaves, and filling them with sharpened sticks. Though intelligent, Ted struggled socially. He was bullied, awkward, and drawn to secret fantasies. By his teens, he spied on women through windows. He stole skis and forged tickets just to fit in with wealthier peers. The true turning point? Loneliness. Experts believe Bundy's feelings of rejection pushed him deeper into a fantasy world, one fueled by control, violence, and power. These fantasies grew darker until they shaped the man he would become. Ted Bundy wasn't born a monster. He was made, piece by piece, by lies, abuse, and loneliness. But how did this boy become one of history's most feared killers? The answer is far more chilling than you think. Ted Bundy's crimes weren't just murders, they were psychological warfare, carefully designed to trap his victims, the Washington disappearances. In the mid-1970s, young women began vanishing near college campuses in Washington state. They were bright, full of life, and disappeared without a trace. Witnesses described a man with a sling on his arm, or crutches, asking for help. That man was Bundy. It was his calculated charm, his fake injuries, and his ability to manipulate empathy that made him nearly invisible to those around him. The Lake Sammamish abductions. On July 14, 1974, in broad daylight, Bundy abducted Janice Ott and Denise Naslund from Lake Sammamish State Park. Witnesses described a man introducing himself simply as Ted. That day marked Bundy's chilling confidence, 2 women gone, in front of hundreds of people. The Colorado kidnappings and his first arrest. Bundy's trail of terror soon spread to Colorado. In January 1975, Karen Campbell disappeared from a hotel hallway in Aspen. Her body was found weeks later in the mountains. This case became crucial, leading to Bundy's first arrest. But his story was far from over. His escapes from jail. Twice, Bundy slipped through the fingers of justice. In 1977, he escaped from a courthouse library by leaping from a second-story window. Months later, he managed another daring escape from his cell, vanishing into the night. Each time, the nation held its breath. Where would Bundy strike next? The Florida State murders. In January 1978, Bundy entered the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University. Within minutes, he savagely attacked 4 women, killing 2. The brutality shocked the nation. For the first time, Bundy's mask of control slipped, revealing his violent rage. The Kimberly Leach case and his final capture. Weeks later, Bundy abducted 12-year-old Kimberly Leach. Her disappearance brought investigators closer than ever. Not long after, Bundy was pulled over by police in Pensacola, Florida. This time, the monster was finally caged. His trials became media spectacles, with Bundy bizarrely representing himself, turning the courtroom into his stage. Ted Bundy's cases weren't just about murder. They were about deception, manipulation, and the terrifying truth that evil can hide behind the most ordinary smile. His story still haunts us, a reminder that sometimes, the most dangerous monsters are the ones we least expect. He often pretended to be injured, wearing a fake cast or asking for help carrying books. To his victims, he looked vulnerable, harmless even. But in reality, that kindness was a mask hiding a predator. and this mask of charm gave him the power to strike again and again. Not every woman fell victim to Bundy's cruelty. Some escaped and lived to tell their terrifying story. Carol Durant managed to escape from Bundy after he lured her into his car by pretending to be a police officer. Nita Neary, a student at Florida State University, narrowly escaped during Bundy's infamous attack at the Chi Omega sorority house, and her testimony later placed him at the scene. Others, like Cheryl Thomas, survived brutal assaults, carrying the physical and emotional scars but also the strength to share their stories. These survivors turned their pain into power, helping ensure Bundy could never hurt anyone again. Their survival wasn't just a miracle, it became a turning point in stopping him. In courtrooms across America, mothers, fathers, and friends faced the unthinkable. They spoke of the daughters they lost, of birthdays that would never come again. Their heartbreak gave the world a glimpse into the true cost of Bundy's crimes. But Bundy's impact wasn't only personal, it reshaped the way America fights crime. Because of Bundy, police learned to share information across states. His crimes helped shape the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit, pushing forward the science of criminal profiling and forensic psychology. Even in death, Bundy left behind a dark legacy, one that changed the fight against killers forever. But what did Ted Bundy confess to before his death? And why did thousands of people gather outside the prison on the night of his execution, some even celebrating with fireworks? Let's dive into the chilling end of Ted Bundy. What did Ted Bundy finally confess before his death? Facing the electric chair, Bundy grew desperate. He began revealing hidden details about murders that law enforcement had long suspected but never confirmed. He described acts that only the killer could know, proving that the number of his victims was far greater than anyone imagined. These confessions weren't acts of remorse, they were bargaining chips. Bundy hoped that the truth might delay his execution, but the clock was running out. January 24, 1989, the day Ted Bundy's life ended in Florida State Prison's electric chair. Outside the prison gates, a crowd of hundreds gathered. Some held signs that read "Burn, Bundy, burn." Others cheered, chanted, and even set off fireworks. Reporters described it as a carnival atmosphere, a grim celebration of justice finally being served. As the switch was thrown, Bundy's reign of terror ended, and for many, it was closure after years of horror. But even in his final years, Bundy was not forgotten by those who admired him. He received letters every week, fan mail from women who claimed they loved him. Some sent photographs, some offered marriage proposals, and many believed he was innocent despite the overwhelming evidence. Psychologists called this obsession hybristophilia, attraction to dangerous men. Ted Bundy, with his courtroom smirks and false charm, became a twisted celebrity, worshipped by people who saw him as more than a killer. And so, with the crack of the electric chair, Ted Bundy's story came to an end. Yet his legacy remains, not just in the pain of the lives he destroyed, but in the dark fascination he continues to hold over the world. Evil doesn't always appear as a monster lurking in the shadows, sometimes, it wears a smile. The question remains, did Bundy's execution bring true justice, or did his confessions leave behind mysteries we may never solve? And so, with the crack of the electric chair, Ted Bundy's reign of terror ended. Yet his story still lingers, not only in the countless lives he destroyed, but in the disturbing fascination he left behind. Evil, as Bundy proved, can hide in plain sight. Do you believe Bundy's final confessions revealed the full truth, or are there still secrets buried with him? You've been watching Twisted Truths, where crimes are solved, and justice is done. Don't forget to like, comment your answer below, and stay tuned as we uncover the story of another infamous killer in our next episode.